Hi there, this is Chris, Chaplain Account Motor Legends. Today I wanted to talk to you about the new for 2023 2206 approved Neotec 3 flip lid helmet from Shoei. Flip lid helmets are a huge business these days. In the UK and in the EU, we're led to believe the Neotec 2, in other words this helmet, is Shoei's best-selling helmet. And so the company's put a lot of effort into ensuring that the new model improves upon its predecessor. Now, that a new Neotec was due was no secret, of course, because there's a new safety standard, 2206, and the old helmet, the Neotec 2, didn't meet that standard. Some time ago, Shoei sent us a couple of Neotec 3s so that we could get to know it in advance of the helmet's launch, but also with a view to reviewing it for our customers and for putting a video like this out on the blogosphere. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. We're not going to ride in the helmet because personally we feel that such tests are a waste of time. I could go out in the Neotec 3, it might be superbly comfortable on me, it might be wonderfully quiet with me on my bike, but that doesn't mean it's going to be just as quiet or just as comfortable on somebody else on a different bike. So what we're going to do today is tell you what the differences are between the Neotec 2, in other words this helmet, and the new model, the Neotec 3. We're going to give you our initial impressions, of course, but the reality is that it will take months, years even, before we really know just how good this new helmet is. As people ride in it, they will develop their own views, their own impressions. They will talk with other bikers. Sometimes those bikers will commit their views to the internet. Perhaps they will come and talk to retailers like us to give us their feedback. And so over time, we will learn whether motorcyclists think that the new Neotec really is as good as we, and indeed Shoei, hope it will be. But for now, one might expect Shoei to be given the benefit of the doubt. Alongside Arai, Shoei makes the best quality helmets on the market. But when it comes to helmets that incorporate the kind of rider conveniences that many of us expect in our helmets, Shoei, I suppose, is in a class of one, because you will never find a drop-down sun visor, you'll never find an integrated comms, and you'll never find a flip front on an Arai. It also has to be acknowledged that Shoei is not the kind of company that would drop the ball. They don't have to, for example, rush a helmet into the market to satisfy investors. They're not out to make a quick buck. Shoei does things in a certain way, and so one doesn't expect them to make schoolboy errors when they're bringing out a new helmet. Now, Shoei has spent the last 5 years developing the Neotec 3. The Neotec 2 was, in our view, the most technically complete helmet on the market. I suppose one might never have expected that the 3 would be much more than an upgrade on the 2, and I suppose that is what Shoei has set out to do, to give us a Neotec 2, but just a little bit better. Because such information is confidential, there are certain things that we as retailers will never know. But industry folklore is that Arai and Shoei test their helmets to a much higher standard than the statutory minimum. Indeed, some would go so far as to suggest that a 2205 helmet from one of the Japanese makers would be more protective than many 2206 helmets from other brands. Clearly, we can't be absolutely sure about this. I think there's only one thing we can be sure about, and it's that the new Neotec will be more protective than the old one. And that's because there are so many more tests. The test, for example, for energy absorption is much more demanding. The test for the shell's rigidity is much more demanding. Under 2206, helmets now have to be tested for angled impacts as well as direct impacts. The visors have to meet a new higher standard. The visors have to now be equipped with a locking mechanism, and so on and so forth. Given all of this, we had actually expected that the new helmet would be somewhat heavier than the old one, because that has tended to be the trend that we've seen so far as helmets have transitioned from 2205 to 2206. But that does not appear to be the case with the Neotec. The weight difference is so small as to be, I have to say, negligible. Frankly, we've no idea how Shoei have managed to achieve this. But anyway, let's now talk about what differentiates the Neotec 2 from the Neotec 3. For the Neotec 3, and indeed this is the Neotec 3, Shoei has created new cheek pads to make the neck roll fit even more tightly, especially towards the rear of the helmet. And that's because they discovered that the back of the neck was a significant source of air ingress on the Neotec 2. And as we've learnt, when air comes into a helmet and reaches the ears, that equates as noise. Shoei has also worked to dampen the area where the mechanism operates the drop-down sun visor. And what they found is that the void in the helmet was a significant source of resonation. The flip front of the helmet now sits more tightly against the shell and in a flusher manner, because at speed anything that creates turbulence on the side of a helmet adds to noise. And I think that's pretty easy to discern because the join here between the two parts of the helmet, once the helmet is closed, that's almost seamless. Shoei has also worked to reduce turbulence around the fitting for the comms around here. It now sits lower and that will help to reduce noise. The Neotec 3 has a new visor locking mechanism. In truth, that's come about as part of the 2206 regulations, which make such a fixture mandatory. Shoei has gone for a center locking mechanism. And what that means is that when you want to raise the visor, you have to do that from the center. And we think that's a good thing because if you always raise your visor on your helmet from either the right side or the left side, eventually you will distort the visor and there'll come a point where rain starts to leak through that distortion, as it were. The mechanism for closing the visor is very firm. It locks very tightly against the shell of the helmet. And that's a good thing because it's going to help to keep the noise out and it's going to also help to keep the rain out. It's not, it's got to be said, a system that everybody loves. It's identical to the system that is used on the current NXR. It can be a little bit fiddly, especially if you've got thicker gloves. You also, on the Neotec 3, get a deeper sun visor, and we understand why, because it wasn't, I have to say, a great feature on the Neotec 2. They've also revised the chin strap on the helmet. The strap now has metal strands that are woven through it, and that allows them to make a strap that is much thinner and also much softer. The ratchet system is also somewhat lighter and smaller, and all of this is important because one of the potential issues with a flip lid helmet is that because we've lost the front part of the helmet to attach the strap to, the strap on a flip lid sits further back, and on some people that can be uncomfortable. The venting on the 3, it has to be said, or has to be acknowledged, is also a little bit improved, but only a little bit. You now get a 2-position chin vent on the front, whereas on the Neotec 2 it was a simple open and close mechanism. The vents on the brow and the back of the helmet are now more aerodynamic, and Shoei tell us that they have done that to enable the helmet to flow more smoothly through the air, to reduce turbulence and therefore to reduce noise. But that will not necessarily improve functionality. That doesn't mean you're going to get more air through the helmet. There will of course be a new comm system for the Neotec 3. Unfortunately, the old SRL system will not, from the Neotec 2, will not fit in the Neotec 3. The system will come from Sena, as all Shoei systems do. As before, the helmet is pre-channeled to take the battery pack and the brains in a compartment in the back here, and pre-channeled to take the speakers and the microphone. Once more, as with the Neotec 2, the controls are going to sit flush against the helmet. But for the Neotec 3, there will only be one comm system offered, and it will be a dual Bluetooth and mesh system, and it will come with high definition Harman Kardon speakers. So in some ways, that's really about it as far as the changes between the 2 and the 3 are concerned. Now, what a lot of people wanted Shoei to address with the Neotec 3 was an improved crack or sit position on the visor, because a lot of people like to ride with just a small crack here so they don't have the visor way open that it's going to let flies and all the rubbish in. They just want a small airflow through the visor. Well, Shoei has not claimed to have addressed that, and if there is an improvement in that regard, I think it's kind of an accident, and I think it comes down to a slightly different locking mechanism here. It's got to be said that the old Schubert C3 Pro, indeed the now very old Schubert C3 Pro, was still much better in that regard. The Neotec has long been a winning formula. It's the best sport, come touring, come commuting helmet on the market. It's protective, it's quiet, it's comfortable, it's beautifully made, and it's reliable. Shoei had to clearly remodel the Neotec 2 to pass the 2206 tests, and so they took the opportunity to improve upon the helmet wherever they could. They clearly, however, did not want to change the essence of the helmet, so the new Neotec 3 was never going to be anything more, I suppose, than a marginal improvement over its predecessor, and that is exactly what the Neotec 3 is. Clearly, it's going to be a safer helmet because it passes the new 2206 test. Other than that, as we have discussed, the main thrust of Shoei's efforts have been towards making the Neotec 3 a quieter helmet, and we're sure that they will have been successful in that endeavour. In truth, all the other improvements are pretty much just in the margin. The Neotec 3 is very like the 2, it's just a little bit better. Now, as you might expect, the new helmet is going to be a little bit more expensive than the old one, but here in the UK, the increase is around 5%, and given all of the things you get, I don't think that's bad. Initially, we will only get the helmet in plain colours. The graphic treatments will follow shortly, as will the new comms and the changeable internal parts, the headliners and the cheek pads. Well, I hope you found that interesting. If you'd like to see more Shoei helmets or conceivably more flip-lid helmets, then visit the website motorlegends.com. If you'd like to learn more about the Neotec 3 itself, then if you click on one of the links on the screen, sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there, that will take you directly to a dedicated page on the website. There you can check out the spec in a little bit more detail, you can check availability, and obviously if you want to buy a helmet, you can do that there and then. Now, when you do buy from us, we try to make the process as simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item of protective wear that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have the best price promise in the business. Now, John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise, but we here at Motor Legends go one stage better. If you can find anything that we sell at a lower price with a competitor, we will beat that competitor's price by a full 10%. Now, there are a few terms and conditions connected with what we call our price beat. Nothing particularly onerous, I can assure you, but if you are going to attempt to price beat us, I suggest you go over to the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. In the future, if you'd like to receive bulletins from us about new products, then if you go to the website, at the top of every page, there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. Click on that, within seconds you'll be in business. In future, you'll receive our email bulletins. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be simply delighted if you wanted to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Finally, I'd like to make mention of our fabulous little shop here at Motor Legends. We are based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. And as I've suggested, the shop is small, it's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where we have more than £4 million worth of stock arranged over 3 floors. And technically that makes this the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the UK. But we think that we are far more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. Check us out on Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. And when you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to some one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.